Okay, that's the link out. Right, well, we'll try and add Jason as we're going along. I think that's probably the best bet. So, Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Yes, I was on a flight from Philadelphia last week, so that was a little bit awkward to make the call. And unfortunately, it wasn't one of the flights which has in-flight Wi-Fi.
Yes, you couldn't have joined in from the flight.
It might have been quite fun if I had been able to. But
oh, that sounds like a Jason.
It's yes, fresh from another failed update.
It's a thing every Tuesday, isn't it, to get another failed update?
Yeah, you know, Microsoft really ought to come up with some sort of program where they could get people to test updates.
That kind of sounds good, actually.
Yeah, it could be like people that have inside access or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you had something like that, I mean, it could be going for a couple of years and you'd be doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In fact, it is 2 years, isn't it, this week?
It is. Yeah, I saw the tweets.
Yeah. So good evening. Welcome to your weekly update, failed update. Are you struggling with that? Is it the .222 patch?
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which seems to fail. Apparently, I think someone's found a workaround, but it involves editing, registering, deleting scheduled tasks and whatnot. So I thought, no, I'll just wait until I fix it eventually.
Yeah, so just to fill anybody in that's not sure, this is the latest update, which did go out on the release preview ring and then went out on general release now, if I'm right saying.
It went out, yes, it went out to the insiders on release preview and also to people on the slow ring, because so far there hasn't been a Redstone 2 build to the slow ring. So at the moment, release preview and slow are considered at the same level. And I had a problem installing it. Had a conversation on Twitter about it. Many feedback items in the feedback hub saying I'm stuck in a reboot loop. It installs and it rolls back, then it tries to install it again, and so plenty of feedback telling them that this seemed to be a bad update. And then I think it was Friday or Saturday, it suddenly started rolling out to the general public, which
it's not good, is it?
Bit of an odd step. No, it does. I mean, don't get me wrong. I genuinely believe in the Windows Insider program. I think it's a great thing, but we have sometimes speculated before how much is it just a PR stunt and how much is it, real feedback. But it is disappointing that clearly they were getting feedback, albeit the feedback hub littered with single items with like one or two upvotes, which
that's a real problem.
But apparently although Richard, we're not at WinObs, Richard Hay said that at the MVP Summit it was explained to him how they do kind of merge and correlate that feedback centrally. So, but as somebody giving feedback, it's like, well, which one do I upvote? I mean, I normally just go through and upvote them all, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a very useful way of giving feedback.
It's probably the most effective way, knowing how it is correlated. Because I was in that talk with Richard when they said how it's correlated. And it's certainly, if there's a lot of different posts with lots of upvotes about the same thing, it does tend to get pulled through very quickly. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have happened this time.
Yeah. So the fix I did see was to remove the two scheduled tasks, which are to do with the Xbox Live, I think. But like you said, you can't do it through task scheduler. You've got to actually go and do it through the registry. So I would imagine they'll just reissue that. But it's a bit annoying, isn't it? Because it fails, rolls back, and then it will try again later.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is the whole thing. People have made the case that they should be able to control updates, and I kind of understand Microsoft's position that they want to be the kind of key holders to that, because at the end of the day, it's important for them to keep people moving forward, because it makes a kind of difficult situation for developers. Which version of Windows 10 do I target? And you've got PCs that maybe are less secure, connecting to the internet, becoming kind of botnets, or kind of owned by botnets. So there's certainly lots of reasons why this is a good thing. And Windows isn't alone. iOS prompts you for updates. Google, Android, if you're very lucky, might prompt you for an update. But generally speaking, it is a good thing. But unfortunately, in this case, it really does. You kind of do want somewhere to say, look, either they pull it. I even tried using the downloadable Windows Update. I can't remember what it's called now, but basically it's where if a kind of backdoor to hiding and reshowing updates, but it doesn't show up in there.
Right.
I'm not quite sure why it didn't. Whether or not it's because it was already ready to install, I'm not sure. But I couldn't even hide it that way. So you are kind of almost stuck in a loop. I mean, it's not quite as bad as it sounds. It's not like the thing is permanently, it spends the day installing, failing, failing. But it will download it again, and it pops up saying you need to restart. So the next time you restart your computer, it will try and install it. The next time, like it did just before we started recording the show, if it gets to a scheduled time, it will start installing it. And just what's the point in just installing a failed update continuously? There needs to be almost something built into Windows that says, no, look, I've tried this update 3 times now. Let's knock it on the head until another update gets released.
Because I think that's.
Or
Sorry,
report
ahead,
back, or just report back to Microsoft. That's the case, and stop it.
Yeah, because if you roll back
exactly.
a build, then it knows that you've rolled back a build, doesn't it? And I think it doesn't off you then. But it should be like that with the updates. So at least it should have a flag in there to say, okay, I've tried this 3 times now. There's obviously a problem. We'll skip this one for the next one.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous just trying to install the same update over and over again. I mean, I guess it's difficult for Windows to know because you do occasionally get a failed update that successfully installs, on the subsequent attempt. But you think, even if you set the bar quite high, that okay, we've got to 10 attempts now, or 5 attempts even. It's time to give up.
Yeah, and as Richard says in the chat room, this has actually gone out to normals, as he says. But it has.
Yes.
Yeah. But then you get, so for example, again, Richard Hay, he's updated, I think 3 machines. I saw him talking on Twitter today, and with no problems whatsoever. So it's clearly, it's particular machines. And, we talk all the time about how so many different varieties of Windows PCs and laptops there are out there that you will get the odd fringe cases. But like I say, you would think, given the amount of telemetry they must be getting, that they would have been able to detect. And like they do a controlled release of major updates to Windows 10. They've got hardware configurations that they can target. So it could be something as simple as the fact that I've got the Hyper-V role enabled or something like that. It's just you just don't know. Yeah,
I mean my Surface Pro 4 had the update, no problem. But like I said, it's just that specific combination.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a bit unfortunate, but there are other stuff we want to talk about tonight. Before I forget as well, so we've got new builds. I want to talk about the Google stuff as well, some Microsoft band stuff, and some app stuff as well. So where should we start? We'll come back to the Google stuff because I'll talk about. So we'll talk about the build for the moment. So we did get a new build last week.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it's still a bit early days for me, so I'm not installing them at the moment.
So we got a phone and PC build, as you correctly pointed out to me. More work to be done for the videos.
Yes.
So I did do those. Yeah. So 14936. These have got to be the least interesting new builds we've had for some time. Really, there was nothing.
Yeah, what was really interesting on the desktop, it's happened on the last 2 builds for me, is it wiped out my virtual memory settings. So all my paging was set down to 0. And then as soon as it finished installing, it came up and said, your device is low on memory. Well, no wonder.
Right.
The paging settings.
That's normally an automatic setting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it was all set to automatic settings, and they were all set down to 0.
Right. No, I didn't have that on any of my 3 devices that 4 devices in total.
Yeah, so I had it happen on two devices I installed. So it's not just an isolated incident, and I have seen other people reporting it as well as an issue. So with these particular the last 2 builds basically. So hopefully it's something I'll fix. But it's very easy to fix if you do get it. You just go into your virtual memory settings and bump them up. But unless you know that's what the problem is, it could be quite scary. You might think your memory's gone on your device.
Yeah. I think the only real notable thing they highlighted was a new extension for Microsoft Edge, which is the turn off the lights, I think it's called, isn't it? That dims videos when you're playing YouTube videos, which is quite a nice thing, but that actually worked that's nothing to do with the build. That was just a feature they called out. I guess the change was that we did get a phone build where previously they'd not released that because of that pin bug.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. There was also one of the major changes about the authentication for NAS devices, which I saw a few posts, people freaking out about that. But that's not been unusual, has it? Because I know some of these devices are seen as intranet devices, aren't they? And I think Edge or Explorer turns off those local kind of intranets for non-private, non-work networks. So that, for me, is not much new. I think you remember, again, sorry, Richard Hay mentioned your name a lot tonight. I think he even had a problem with one of his NAS devices, and it turned out to be network settings. Because it is, I mean, it is part of a security patch that's actually rolling out. So I think the difference is it's actually integrated into this build, whereas so it is something that is coming anyway. But yeah, like I said, it seemed to be people complaining about Microsoft trying to disable NAS devices, but I don't think that's really their intention.
No, definitely not.
They're just trying to make things more secure, which it always makes me laugh when people are knocked for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, so apart from that, there was nothing much. I mean, everything worked fine on my Surface Pro 3, no differences. Still got to reset all the drivers on the Lynx and the Encore. No, the Encore, sorry, not the Lynx. But that's got used to that now. I've got a rapid sequence for doing that now. Hopefully we'll get something a bit more interesting this week. But it looks like we're settling into the fairly static weekly builds with minor changes. I guess 1 or 2 features coming in over a period of time.
Yes, yeah. I think I saw a tweet from Donny. Was it yesterday, saying it's a busy week ahead?
Yeah, and no build today as we record on Tuesday night.
Yes, yeah. So this was yesterday, saying, "Hey, Windows Insider's got a pretty busy week coming up, so no builds today." And then, like, as you say, that they've said no builds today either. Yeah. But I suspect, reading between the lines, I think we might have something by the end of the week.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's okay if they want to get into that sort of pattern, then people know when to expect the builds, and I suppose it saves people constantly asking when are we going to get a new build if we just get used to having one on, I think, sort of Wednesday evenings UK time, Thursday morning. Yeah. Anyway, my hands-on videos are available for anybody that's keeping score with the builds, and you should have a look at those.
Yeah, and talking to builds as well, the Xbox next update preview is flying along quite happily as well. It seems to be getting quite regular updates for that, some of which are breaking the Now TV and Sky apps. they seem to be very easy to break in terms of the HDCP control, but that's now working again, which is good. So yeah, there's quite a few updates coming. Actually, also, sorry, just coming back to this 0.222 build update that keeps failing to install. The ironic thing is that there's an update coming for Forza Horizon 3 for the Windows 10 version, which, if it's not installed, if the Windows patch isn't installed, will cause the whole game to download again.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So so that could be quite a critical update for anyone that's playing Forza Horizon 3 on Windows 10.
Yeah, so that's not good, is it? If you've got, because it's a massive game as well, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, these aren't small things. So yeah.
Yes, you want to avoid that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
At Tucker Security, did you see that the US Microsoft Store are now selling those fingerprint readers?
I saw that. Yes, yeah. I've often considered those. The only problem is with the Surface Pro 3, it obviously means you've got this like little dongle thing sitting off the side.
Yeah, exactly. But they're not available in the UK now, and I'm sure Gary will explain why, as he has before.
It's all down to the export licensing and the encryption key. So so it's you could personally import them. That's absolutely fine. If you wanted to go and buy one in the States and bring it in, that's fine. But you can't actually just
can't buy it from the
Microsoft store. Yeah. So,
although with the Surface Pro 3, I think the more elegant solution would be to get the keyboard. I don't know what the difference in prices would be.
But is that keyboard with the fingerprint reader available now?
It is, yes, I believe.
It was a while. I mean, that's why.
Yeah, so they had to license it. Yeah, so they had to go through all the hoops to get that allowed across, and I can't see them doing that on the individual fingerprint readers because they're just too much effort. It's too much effort to get that clearance for export license.
Yeah.
But there are other fingerprint readers you can buy which work with Windows Hellos, and there's quite a few of them available in the Amazon UK store. So I don't think this is a big issue, to be honest.
And I like the fingerprint reader on the Nexus anyway. So I don't think it's a bad option for signing. And yeah, the camera is good on Windows Hello, but I think fingerprint reader is also just as good an option.
Yeah.
Now, talking of Microsoft stores, did you see this week that Microsoft have pulled all the references to the Microsoft Band 2 from the Microsoft Store in all the stores that it was available in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
So it looks like the end of the line for the band, which we did talk about a couple of weeks ago. So it's not a great shock, but I don't know. It's a shame. It's a real shame. I think that that's gone. Now, of course, it doesn't rule out the fact that there could be a new band, but I think Microsoft told ZDNet, as I think it should be pronounced, that they won't be coming this year. So it doesn't rule out one next year, but it does look like it's the end of the road for Microsoft's fitness band.
Well, yes. It depends really if they can get. So there was some talk that some third parties actually picking up on the reference hardware. So I'm not sure if that's still going ahead. If it is, then maybe that's one way we get it, but it wouldn't be a band. Obviously, it'd just be using the Microsoft Health stuff. Although would be a bit strange now they've renamed the app to be band.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they renamed that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It must be. I mean, it must be quite a tough sell in a way. I mean, I know obviously all the Windows enthusiasts were eager to pick one up and use one, but I mean, the band's never going to work as well with an iPhone as it is, let's say, an Apple Watch. So really, that kind of leaves the Android market. And would Android owners really necessarily buy a Microsoft band, or would they buy something that's more kind of
when they can buy something cheaper which does the same thing for Fitbit out
yes.
of the area,
as
a number of people have done in the States, and I would probably point people in the direction of the Pebble 2 as well, the new Pebble, which has got the which is quite low cost and works with Android, and actually works with Windows Phone as well if you've got the right app.
But I think, it's sad because it's the only really true cross-platform fitness device, smartwatch type device. I've got the Moto 360 Sport and which I wear, but I also still wear the band because the way that the UV tracking and the sleep tracking and everything else works, I just find it better than the Android one. And of course, I can just pair it up to whichever phone I want. So I think it's a real shame that Microsoft haven't gone. I've just sort of dropped it completely and not just tried to pursue it, because it's just such early days in the market, and it just seems to be that.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is production reliability, which is definitely
been an issue. Yeah,
and when you're getting a vast majority, so. There's one particular store I was talking to which actually had more returns than they'd actually had sales.
I mean that's definitely been a problem,
because you get a lot of people who are doing multiple returns.
Yeah, I mean that has been a separate and a big problem really, and I think I've had I don't know how we lost count. I think we said 4, didn't we? Something like that on the last time, and most people have had that same issue. But it just seems to be another consumer market that Microsoft have had a go and failed, and not really stuck around. 2 years? It's not very long, is it, to build a hardware brand?
No, especially when you consider that the Band 1 really didn't have that much of a big rollout. I mean, I think it eventually became available in the UK, didn't it? After probably 6-12 months. But I mean, it is kind of curious in a way, isn't it? Because Microsoft generally, apart from the Surface brand, traditionally hasn't been the manufacturer; they've been the platform provider. And then OEMs have kind of built upon that. And I wonder whether or not the future could be them maybe working with Fitbit, for example, to make a cross-platform or maybe Windows-orientated wearable, because the cost is quite sensitive, I guess, in the wearables market, particularly when you've got Fitbit.
incredibly sensitive.
Yeah. Yes, and clearly, the band had its reliability issues, hadn't necessarily sold in extensive volume. So maybe it's better that Microsoft just sticks and plays their strengths.
Yes, you could be right. And I think I actually like the Microsoft Health app, which, as Gary said, called the Band app, and I think especially I've been using it for walk tracking, and I found it better than the Google app. So it would be great if if there was a way of other devices getting into that ecosystem, and maybe Microsoft building a system around that. But it just doesn't seem to be something that they're particularly that's going to happen, and it's just another area stepping away from consumers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you have to look at pricing as well. I mean, the band's been around about. Well, I know it's been heavily discounted recently because they've been trying to clear the stock off, but it's around about the £150 mark.
Mm.
I mean, there's a Fitbit. There's about 90, I think. Currently the Fitbit, the Pebble 2 with heart rate, because they actually do one with heart rate, one without heart rate, is 99. Though you can get, I think you actually, if you went today, you'd get a 20% discount on it. So that brings it down. And they do just as much as the band did. I like the band. I think the band was a really nice form factor, and it worked well, and it did a lot of stuff, and it integrated really well with Windows, which obviously none of the others do particularly well. Even though Fitbit has got a Windows app, it's not particularly brilliant. But I think it had its problems, and the band 2 definitely had a problem with battery life as well. That's why a lot of people I know stopped using it, because it was lasting less than a day for most people.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a Fitbit which I wear, and it's probably the cheapest model that they do, because I kind of use it as a way of kind of monitoring my inactivity during the day, rather than
prompts for coffee.
Yeah, rather than it driving. So really, I wear it as an awareness thing, rather than a driver towards keeping fit and losing weight, etc. But I think also at the same time, though, that the fitness market does have its kind of extremists. So I know people that have bought £500-600 for a bike that they go on for miles every weekend. And for those sort of people, I would imagine they would also be prepared to pay a premium for a really good wearable fitness tracker. But at the same time, do they really need anything more than just simple GPS tracking? Because so much stuff's built into the phone these days. And you see these armbands where you can put your iPhone into, so it will track your run. And most, I think I'm right in saying that the iPhone has, certainly Windows Phone has, and I'm sure Android has step counters built into the phone. So
yeah. I mean, I think the thing is that step count. I mean, if you actually just if you're buying a smartwatch for just a step counter, why don't you just buy a pedometer?
Yeah.
I mean, or connected, because you get connected pedometers for about £12 now with Bluetooth, and they actually they have apps and they record the stuff, and some of them even integrate with things like Google Health and HealthVault and that on the Apple. But well, actually, it's not called HealthVault, but if it's called in the Apple. HealthKit, that's the one I was looking for. HealthVault was the old Microsoft thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, for 12, 13 quid, 14 quid, you can get a pedometer. Now, if you want pedometer and heart rate, you're going to spend a little bit more, but there's a lot of stuff out there which does that. So the only real question is, if you're going to go for a smart fitness tracker, what else do you want it to do?
And this is where the band is pretty good on that front, but I mean, Android Wear I found is better. For the things like the apps and the notifications. There's just certain things, the sleep tracking and the GPS and the UV tracking I prefer on the band. So I actually tend to wear both most of the time.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, I'd probably just stick with the Android Wear. But I don't know. I just feel like that it's a market that's early and hasn't sort of settled down yet. And
I know.
Pulling out of it, yes, financially, I suppose it makes sense, but it's just another area where they conceded to someone else already.
Yeah, but I don't think they could compete on price though. I mean, the Fitbit area was about half the price of this, and does the same thing, and does almost exactly the same thing, and works cross-platform. So it's very difficult when you've got that competitor and a competitor who specialises in that market as well. So I think
the future would be to work with them, wouldn't it? As
yeah,
you
it would,
said.
and that's what I think the whole thing with the Microsoft Health platform was supposed to be that it was meant for third parties to work with. Nobody has, which is a bit of a shame. But
it also makes me question really any hardware products coming from Microsoft at the moment, because do they really? Is there a need for hardware for Microsoft to make their own hardware? For example, the Surface. Do they really need to make a Surface anymore?
probably not now. I mean, they've actually kicked that market in that direction, and there's a lot of really good bits of kit coming up. We know we had this EVA discussion a couple of weeks back, but the stuff I saw there's so many really good bits of kit. I mean, I love the new Dell XPS stuff which has been coming out. That's gorgeous. I mean, that's not a Surface clone, but that's a really good bit of kit. There's a whole lot of really good laptops and convertibles coming out now outside of Microsoft.
But then them not having their own hardware, does that mean again that it's one step away from consumers, and consumers then tend to put their eggs in the basket? For example, we'll talk about Google in a minute, but they've got quite a few consumer-facing products coming out, and once you kind of get in that system, you then tend to branch out with that. So Amazon have got that, and Apple have got that, and I wonder really from a consumer side, the only interface now with Microsoft is you've got the Xbox and then you've got the services, and I guess that's what they're concentrating on. But you have to wonder, even how important is the Xbox to them even?
Yeah, and it hasn't been selling as well as they thought it was going to. So there is I mean, I think there's been a lot of pressure from Microsoft shareholders to move away from anything consumerish, because they make far more money on business stuff and providing services and back end stuff. And there was talk a few years ago about actually spinning off the consumer industry part of it, Microsoft, which actually would make some sense. But I think they do need that ecosystem to actually drive purchasing of Windows.
Yeah, because if you're constantly using other devices other than Windows, then it drives you in that direction in the long term, doesn't it?
Talking about hardware, just quick aside here. So, when you had your Zune years ago, did you buy any of the WMA DRM protected stuff?
I never did, but I know a few people that did. Jason, did you ever buy that?
No, I didn't. In fact, it was only very recent I even started buying music again from Microsoft, and even then, I think I've only got maybe 2 or 3 albums. I just after the MSN music thing, I just didn't trust them.
I probably shouldn't have done, but I have to say I think they're doing the right thing here. So, well, they've recently sent an email out to anybody who had a Zune back in 2012. And said basically, if you purchased music on the Zune prior to 2012, we're not going to be issuing licenses to the WMA DRM protected tracks purchased prior to 2012. So if you've not already obtained a license for outstanding purchase track, you will be unable to play them locally after March 11, 2017. And this also applies if you upgrade your hardware or whatever, because the license is based on your hardware. So, which is not brilliant, because you've purchased that music and it should be yours. But what they have said is that anybody who's got this music will be able to download MP3 versions of these songs for free from either Groove Music or music.microsoft.com. And there is a whole transition bit to be found as well. So I think they've done the right thing, but it's just another bit of abandonware.
Yeah, and it just shows you really that when you're buying into these ecosystems, you do want to make sure that they're going to stick around, and not all of them do. Now, when it's music, it's not too bad if you're getting MP3 files because they're portable. But go back to the discussion we had last week about video files. It's really important when they're DRM enabled.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because the record industry is just so much further ahead than the video industry. I mean, if you buy an album from Groove Music, or I haven't bought anything from iTunes, I don't know if it's the same, but and I think even from Amazon or from Play, they're MP3 files which don't have any DRM protection on them. And I think it's been proven, particularly with the rise of streaming services, that generally speaking, people are quite happy to pay if you make it easy.
Yes.
And you don't so much. I mean, maybe it still happens a little bit. I know sometimes you get albums that are released to one individual streaming service, but generally speaking, albums just get a global release. And I was tweeting today about the Star Trek Beyond movie released to movies and TV, but it's in the it could be other countries as well, but particularly US only. It's not available in the UK yet. You can pre-order it, but it's almost like movie companies just don't realize that that once that movie's purchasable and downloadable, people can put it wherever they want.
Yeah, I think this is an ongoing discussion we've had in it. The industry doesn't get the streaming, and I find it very frustrating where you've got the way that the rights are split between providers. So Sky will have the rights for this set of movies, Amazon have got this set, but Netflix have got this one, and it gets really difficult then, and especially when you end up with different versions, maybe series 1 on one service and series 2 is on another one, but you can watch it on Sky if you record it over through the dish, but it's not on catch up yet, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I've got an extreme example. So the 3 Batman movies, so Batman Begins, Batman the Dark Knight, and Batman Dark Knight Rises, I think it is. Each one of those films is available on a different service. So you can watch one on Netflix, then to watch the next one, you have to switch to Now TV. And if you want to watch the next one, you have to switch to Amazon. It's just,
I remember
literally,
this.
yeah, I mean, it's literally 3 services to watch each of the films. And it's just, there isn't, unless you know of anything, Ian or Gary, there isn't a website you can go to and say, where can I watch this?
There's a couple of apps which allow you to say where can you watch it, but they're mostly US centric.
That's a big problem.
I think there is a UK What's on Netflix site, which could be quite useful.
There is, yeah. And then even if you just, and as you mentioned, Jason, when you came back from holiday, when I was in Amsterdam the other week, when I fired up Netflix, it's a completely different set of content. Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Netflix has just recently got the last one of the film. My mind's gone completely blank. The Hunger Games. Right. Netflix has just got the final episode of the Hunger Games movies, but you can't watch all the previous ones on there. Yeah. So if you're waiting to catch up and watch them all in one go, you've again got to go service hunting, which
is like with the music, the equivalent would be like you can listen to Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd on Groove, but to listen to Wish You Were Here, you've got to have Google, but you can't listen to The Wall on that one unless you go to Apple or whatever. And on music, I know Beatles will sort of last to join, and that were exclusive for a while, but now they're everywhere. It doesn't happen in music, and it does make it much easier to pick a service.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it's almost, I would almost go further than that. It's when films are a series, a trilogy, it's almost like you want to listen to an album, but this song's track 1's available here, and track 2's available over here, and it just doesn't make sense. But it does seem that the movie industry is just still so many years behind, and you can understand it in a way. I mean, Sky pay a lot of money for their 12-month exclusive on movies, but that's so against the actual consumer, and then you get services like Disney Life, where they want you to pay a monthly subscription fee. Although I think quite a lot of the Disney movies are on Netflix now, aren't they? I think.
And Sky have got quite a lot of them.
Yeah, but so because you've got Disney Life, we don't get Disney anywhere, which means if you buy a Disney movie, it's locked into that provider, which I mean, Ultraviolet, for all its failings, it's not available on every movie service. Every movie studio. I think Paramount's quite a good example, but it's the closest we've got so far to a platform-free digital copy of your movie.
Now, what you can do, of course, if you rip your own movies, you can store them on your media server, which I think still seems to be the best way of doing it.
Yes, yeah, and of course now we've got Plex in the cloud, so that's another alternative.
Yeah, and I don't think, Gary, you were here when we talked about it last week, but did you see that Plex have got an Amazon cloud-based version of their service now?
Which is pretty clever.
Yeah, I really like to see a OneDrive version of it, because a lot of people have got OneDrive with Office 365, so you've got a huge amount of storage. But although I think that that's really why Microsoft ended up reducing the amount of OneDrive storage, wasn't it? Because people were storing movies on it. So maybe that's a bit of a grey area.
Mm.
But yeah, I like my Plex server. You see that it should be in the next couple of days. VLC will be available on the Xbox One.
Yes, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the Universal app, the UWP app that's going to be on there. So that supports network shares, DLNA. So that would mean that you could have stuff stored on your network and be able to consume that on the Xbox. So still that's a good way of doing it, having your Xbox as the client, and that's currently what I use. Apart from anything on Sky, everything I watch goes through the Xbox now, apart from live TV. Now, one of the things that I was thinking interesting with about the consumer side of things, did you see that? Well, first of all, we've got the Amazon have launched the Echo and the Dot, isn't it? I think the Dot is their two devices. Have you going to order one of those? I think they're on pre-order at the moment.
I missed out on the Prime discount, which is really annoying. But I was actually very tempted to get a Dot just to integrate into the home system. But actually, I'm thinking I might not now, because obviously the Pebble Core thing, which is part of the new release of Pebble, actually which runs Android, actually has Alexa built in.
Right.
So I think that will probably be my cheaper option for doing it. But at least it means all the UK services are now available.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it and I thought, that looks quite good. But there's the one thing that it hasn't got is the if then and that support is only US only currently.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be long before it's
yeah, I hope so, because I do like that. And
but you can always write your own recipe.
I don't think you can actually hook it up.
No, I mean you can't write your own if then that recipe. But you could write your own.
I see. Right.
Amazon recipe for.
Right. Yeah.
Alexa.
But I just currently I mean I did see it and I thought it looked rather looks good, especially with the music. It's kind of, you can see why Sonos so worried, or maybe looking at changing direction, because it's got the music playback.
But then again, Sonos have announced they're integrating Alexa, so that kind of offsets that.
Yeah. But I just couldn't think of a really good use case for it for me at the moment.
Yeah, same here really.
You need to order your toilet rolls, don't you?
Well, yeah, I just say to wife, get some toilet rolls when you're out shopping.
I mean, we were talking about that with the dash button. It sounds a great idea, but it completely distances you from how much the item costs. So, for example, Ariel washing liquid, quite often that's on quite heavily discounted in many of the supermarkets in the UK. But if you've got a button just sitting next to the washing machine and you think, I must order that, and press it, you're completely distanced from how much that item actually costs. And I think that's great. That's obviously what Amazon want. They want you just to keep clicking the button, but as consumers it really makes you totally unconscious of the price.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it was smart and checked to find which supplier was the best price and did it accordingly, then that would actually be useful. But of course, Amazon won't want you to do that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they just want you to just keep reordering. I mean, they even do. For example, I've got an electric shave which has one of those oily cleaning packs in it. And when I went to reorder some, it said, "Why don't you set up a 6 monthly subscription and we'll give you a slight discount?"
Yeah.
But again, that's great. So I can say, every 6 months I'll get replenished with supply that I need, which is probably about right. But then that stops me actually when I need some actually shopping around for the cheapest price.
I mean, I suppose it might be good for me to get the coffee beans, because I've got one favourite set of particular coffee beans that I like. It doesn't actually come from Amazon, but if I had the button for it, I think I'd be pressing it.
Well, you can cut your own.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
So I think Richard in the chat room makes a really good point about the Echo and the Dot. There's one thing which they have got, which I think is quite a good selling point, is the Spotify integration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got some. So apart from that, I mean, you can do the voice commands and things, but unless you've already, or you plan to do home automation, I think really it doesn't do a lot for me at the moment. I think it would be more beneficial for someone like you that's got all this set up already.
Yeah, I think so. Although it's actually a really good starting point for home automation. I mean, if you get an Echo and have a couple of Hue lights, you've got pretty much an automated system which is voice controlled, and the voice control does work. That's the thing.
And there's 2 versions, isn't there, as well? There's the one with the speaker and one without. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Echo is the one with the speaker, and the other one's got a speaker output, so you can plug it into your hi-fi, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and that's
it's not actually. I should actually say it has still got a speaker, but it's just not a very good speaker.
Right.
Yeah. Apparently, from what I've read, it's fine for getting audio feedback from commands you've given Alexa, but it's not something you'd want to use for playing music. And I think, like you say, Gary, it supports. You can either use a headphone jack, which puts it ahead of the iPhone 7, or you can, or it also supports Bluetooth.
Yeah. So we ought to say Alexa, subscribe to the Digital Lifestyle Show.
Everybody's device is going off now. Did you see tonight at the Google event? They've announced a similar device, actually, the Google Home.
Yeah, I thought this isn't a surprise because I knew it was coming, but it is very similar in concept. The only difference is their AI behind it. So they Google Assist, which is the sort of the super successor to Google Now. Son of Google Now or daughter of Google Now, whichever you want to put it. But that's the beauty of that, is it has the intelligent AI which allows conversations, much like Cortana allows that follow-up question, but it's taken to a higher degree. So you might ask something, what's on at cinema this weekend? And he says, okay, but we want to take the children, and it then filter it based on that. So I think that's that. But obviously the whole thing with Google is this privacy concerns, and where are they going to sell all your chats to the advertisers? That's the big question.
Yeah,
I've been getting more and more frustrated with Cortana. It just seems to be so hit and miss in terms of. So the other day I was just messing around with Cortana. I said, "Will it rain today?" And instantly I got a web search. What I had to ask was, "Do I need an umbrella today?" I mean, that just
the UK English implementation is really poor.
Yeah, and then you just get to the point where you just give up using it because it's like it's such hard work.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think back to the discussion we had earlier about the devices. Microsoft have got Cortana. It's a great system to interact with, but you tend to, the first point of contact is probably your phone. And then your second point of contact is probably maybe one of these devices like the Amazon device or this Google device, and Microsoft don't have that. But then they've got this Xbox sat in the living room that isn't really using the full potential of it. And you've you've got Cortana for Android and iOS, but it's US only. And again, it's they kind of hobble themselves, and they don't give themselves a level playing field to start with. They set themselves at a disadvantage to start with.
Yeah. Just don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think the Google device looked quite nice. I think it's they've not put the details on the store, the UK store. I've got a feeling it's US only initially anyway. So not unlike Microsoft, they've done the same thing.
Is that the iPixel?
It's not the iPixel. We'll come back to talk about the Pixel, but yeah. And I did notice as well, somebody pointed out all the pictures that they've shown of it, people using it, they're never plugged in. So they've gone for the old, doesn't need to be plugged in job. But it looks a nice device. But this seems to be the next thing, isn't it? That the next area that people are competing over, the big guys are competing over this assistant. And Microsoft were there early with Cortana, but my concern with Cortana is no one uses it because your phone is your main point of doing it. Yes, you can do it with your PC, but people tend to interact more personally with the phone. And although even if Cortana is available, because it's not, if you're an Android user, you're probably unlikely to know it's even there. It's even available if you're in the US, and if you're not in the US, then of course it's not. So it makes you think really that Cortana, it's got a massive potential, but I just don't think it's getting to get the exposure like these other services are. And Amazon haven't got the phone, even though they did try, but then they've got these devices. Google's got this device. Apple obviously, with working with Siri and their there's potential for devices coming down the line with them. So I think that's where the consumer, the failure with the consumers could hurt systems like this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, go ahead, Jeff. You say.
I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, I completely forget to use Cortana on my Surface. I occasionally kind of click on it to look in my notebook, but in terms of web searches, I just tend to open up Edge and then just type into the search box there. It's just not something that I use. And I say on my phone, it's just so frustrating because the experience is just so hit and miss that I just end up using the phone directly.
And I must admit, I don't really use Google now that much for voice commands. I mean, one thing with on the Nexus, the Google Now is kind of built in, so you bit like how you bring up Cortana with the search key on my phone. You just swipe left, and it's there, and it shows things like your parking location, your travel times, and the weather, and then your sort of a summary of your news. And I do use that. So yeah, that's my primary interaction with that. So I think one of them is assistants. Possibly I might use. They're quite cheap as well. I think it was $79. So whatever that, probably 79 quid or 100 quid, something like that, when it comes out in the UK, if it comes out in the UK. But I don't know. I just feel like Microsoft have got all these pieces, and they just not got the complete puzzle to put together to make it worthwhile for consumers.
And we thought they were getting there for a while.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah. And so what else did I think Google? We'll talk about the phone in a sec. Did you see there? We've got a VR headset, £69.
Yeah, it looks quite good.
Yeah, I mean, I've used the Google Cardboard, which cost me £2, I think, off eBay. But this is looks a lot better. It's got a controller built into it as well, and interesting way of approaching VR with augmented reality. So Microsoft's HoloLens could be it's currently thousands, isn't it? And no consumer version, and then you've got the other end, a £69 one. And I think HoloLens has got great potential, but unless it gets, it could be that it never ends up as a consumer device the way that Microsoft seems to be pitching at the moment.
Yeah, and that would be a shame, but they're making a lot of money from businesses. Yeah. So,
I mean, as Richard said, you're not sure want a smartphone stuck to your face. Yeah, I mean, especially not a Note 7, but from where I played around with, I don't know, the VR is quite fun to play around with for half an hour. That's my experience of it. And you do things like, some of the apps that are quite good, the 3D apps, and then you've got, say, you can make a panoramic video, a panoramic photo, the photosphere. Sorry, I did one of those over the weekend, and then if you put the VR on, you can then use your head, to look around, and that's kind of fun. But I still don't like the idea of being shut off. But for 69 quid, it's it's a nice little toy, whereas HoloLens is currently out of reach of anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Richard makes a good point there. Do you really want to strap a smartphone to your face?
No, that's it. I mean, it's uncomfortable.
And dangerous.
Yeah, that's what I say. If you've got a Galaxy Note, and you're totally isolated and you look like an idiot. But I think the HoloLens, you probably look less of an idiot and it's more useful. But yeah, until we see it consumer side. But anyway, that's what they.
You're talking Windows 10 mobile users then for a moment.
Yeah, well, Windows 10. We'll come back to we'll come back to that. And the other stuff that they have announced is something we've asked Microsoft to release, which is like a dongle, media streaming dongle that for Microsoft services, but Google have got a new Chromecast that's got 4K and the other kind of high-end output. Again, very cheap, and you plug, I think £69, isn't it, for a 4K streaming? So you plug it straight into your TV, and it's got Netflix, and I think it's probably got Amazon Video and all the. It's got Google Video, of course, no Microsoft services on it, but looks a nice little device. I prefer using my Xbox, but anyway, nice. 69 quid. It's another sort of throwaway device that can get you into that ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I'd be happy with just a 720p video stream that wasn't pixelated.
Yeah, well, yeah. You have to wait for a while for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, 4K is definitely the future. I mean, again, we talk about the band. Well, that's another area where Microsoft just seems to be, just nothing to offer, and the Xbox is far too expensive to be that solution. But it still amazes me that their apps just aren't on these platforms. It's fine not to have the device, but surely you need your apps there.
Yeah, I find it really strange that movies and TVs doesn't have a third-party app. I mean, what they do with all their other services, to the detriment of the Windows 10 mobile sometimes, that they forget about those and just concentrate on iOS and Android first, which makes me question how serious they are to a service like movies and TV, and even Groove. Groove's got better cross-platform support, but you do question whether that's another money-making market, whether they'd be better to leave that to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be honest, without a family plan, I think there's no way they can compete.
No, I think, and I've currently got both because I've got a trial of Google Play Music, but I think I'll probably end up settling on Google Play Music because it's just slightly better, and the pricing is slightly better, and and I can get a family plan, and it's that kind of thing that makes you switch over in the end.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. I know this is not your ideal device anyway, the Pixel, the new phones from Google. But Gary, I know you've been dabbling with Android, and I probably would be a candidate. I'm currently a Nexus user, but not sure about these. A Pixel 5, a 5-inch Pixel, and a 5.5-inch, which is the device I prefer. They've done a good thing and made both identical, just the screen size different, so no compromise on the processor or anything like that. And they look nice phones. I mean, they're just the latest Snapdragon processor and that kind of thing. Some nice optics on there. But did you see the pricing? So the 5-inch one is £599 for the 32 gig version, and if you're gonna go for the XL, then you took it £719 for 32 gig.
I know, it's getting ridiculous.
That sounds very familiar. Almost the same price as the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus.
Yeah, and that's the market they're going for, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
It's interesting
because it hasn't got the brand, has it? The iPhone's got.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is, and someone made this point to me the other day, is if someone was to come back in on the low end phones, they'd steal the market now, because iOS have definitely, Apple have been out of the low. They haven't really been low cost forever, but Google actually had a really strong grounding in the semi low cost, sort of the £100 phone, £150 phone, and there's nothing there now.
Yeah, we've seen the rise, aren't we? Especially the. I don't. There's just a bit of a gap in the market now, isn't there, between these quality. Maybe some of these Chinese like Huawei and.
But even those, I mean, the Honor 8 I'm using, they've pushed the price up to plus 200 on that, and that's they see that as a low cost phone. It's actually, I don't know, it's an interesting market because obviously Microsoft surrendered that market. Is someone going to come in there and take it on?
I mean, what I find a bit strange with this Pixel is the Nexus, which this is effectively replacing. The Nexus range, which started back 2010, is it, something like that? They were always the three things of the Nexus were you always got the latest version of Android and at least a year or 2 years worth of updates. They were reasonable value for money. They weren't super expensive, and they were just standard Android. And that's always appealed to me. And I think I'm on my third one now. And this Nexus 6P is a great phone. I'm really, really pleased with it. And I think it was £400, something like that. But it's what I would replace that with now. I don't know, because I'm not going to pay £719 for it. I mean, I might as well buy an iPhone.
Yes.
And what?
Well, I certainly recommend the Honor 8 and the P9.
I think the P9, and there's other Android phones, isn't there? But I can understand Google wanted a flagship phone, but I just can't really get why to price it so expensive. And this is a discussion we had back when Microsoft launched Surface, the original one. Pricing it at the same price point as the iPad was always a mistake, because you're going against the device that's a proven winner and successful brand. If you go 100 quid cheaper, people will look at your device. But I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to go for 128 gig Pixel XL, that's 819 quid. I can get a Surface Pro 4 for that.
Yeah, I mean, phones have always been stupidly expensive compared to tablets, though.
Yeah, but this just puts me off totally off that now.
It's interesting. They're virtually the same spec as their HP X2 as well.
Yeah, I know. Which is what, 700 quid?
Yeah, it's a similar price
for the big one. But I think this is even dearer than that. But I just think it's a shame that that lost that Nexus middle ground, and I wonder how well this will do. I mean, I know it's got some. I mean, what's the main features are? You know, they've got the assistants and things like that, but that's software. It's got the latest Snapdragon processor in it and so on. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure who would buy this. And in the past, I've always been the target for a Nexus, and I said I've had a few, but I'm not sure who the target for this is.
Is it perception though? So somebody that's already in the Android ecosystem is probably already looking at buying another Android phone anyway, or maybe they're looking across the iPhone and thinking, well, actually, I can get a phone that's familiar and it's the same price, so it must be as good as an iPhone.
Yeah, perhaps, maybe, I don't know. I just think if it was priced at 600 quid for the top end one, even that's expensive. But I might think about it. But
the thing is, I mean, there are, for people that are price conscious, and there's certainly plenty of those people around, then there's already that lower end of Android there, isn't there? I mean, I know you don't get the guaranteed updates as such, but do consumers really even have that awareness outside of kind of technology followers?
Perhaps so. I think it would have been, perhaps you're right. I mean, I wouldn't like to buy an Android phone just to one of these third-party ones because of the update situation. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe most people don't care about that.
Yeah, and I think Richard's making a couple of good points in the chat room, as he always does. So he was disagreeing with us on pricing, and I think he's got a valid point here. Phones are really high-end, miniaturized mobile tablets, so you can't compare them with a tablet in terms of pricing. I mean, it costs a lot more to make them. But the other thing he's saying is that is this Google's Surface strategy? Is the idea to try and force Android manufacturers to actually create similar devices at lower cost?
That's a very good point. Yeah,
it could be, because the whole Android market has to some extent stagnated. Phones this year are very similar to phones last year, and it's noticeable that people are not upgrading anymore. That they're hanging on to the phone.
So, I think the only problem I have with that though is that it's fine for people to, or the OEMs, to kind of up their game and make the phones as high quality or as close to high quality as the Pixel phones. But if they can't guarantee that update process, then that kind of still makes them second-class citizens.
Yeah. I mean, that's it exactly for me. That they are second-class citizens if you don't get the updates.
Especially with an operating system like Android, where it does seem to have a high number of security vulnerabilities that come out. And if you're stuck with a phone that you've paid a lot of money for that you can't get that fixed for, then that's a serious security implication.
I know some manufacturers are doing these quarterly updates and things like that. I mean, the Nexus gets monthly security updates, as well as getting the latest version of Android. So you get the best of both worlds.
So you're on Nougat or Nugget, however you want to, but Nougat.
Yeah.
However you want to pronounce it.
Yes, I am, yeah.
I think it's Nougat, actually. I think that's how I heard it pronounced in the Android thing.
Yeah.
Because they actually dropped that earlier than they told people they were dropping it, which is quite interesting. A lot of people were caught out by that.
Yeah.
Including, it sounds like their own toolkit manufacturer and designer inside, because apparently a lot of apps are missing their search bars.
Right. I've not noticed any major issues so far.
But there's a bug where the search bar height is now calculated differently. And the way they've done it is only really works if you've got a fixed height container for it.
Right.
So if you've got variable like if you've got a scrolling list with a search box in it, or a search box at the top of a list, it don't work and the search boxes disappear. And quite a few apps have been having this problem. So yes, quite interesting. It caused a bit of chaos last week in the development community. Particularly some of the cross-platform tools, like Xamarin, and people were having to catch up all very quickly, faster than they were expecting to have to catch up.
But if you've got a Samsung device, you're probably waiting another 2 years before it comes out. Anyway.
True, yeah, it's very true.
Now, we're kind of run out of time for talking about TV extenders and things going on from our conversation last week. So we'll carry that over to next week if any listeners got any feedback on that, setting up home networks. And also, if you've got any thoughts on the home stuff, like the Google Home Hub or whatever it's called, is it called Google Home? I can't even find the.
Yeah, it's Jag.
Yeah, and the Android Alexa. Google, Amazon Alexa. So yeah, let us know if you've got any thoughts on how you're going to be integrating those into your setup. So and I'm going to press Jason next week on what phone he's going to be getting next. I think it's time to push him for that one. I know it won't be a Pixel XL.
No,
Definitely not.
Well, I have to say the Holiday 8, I've been actually really impressed with it. If you consider the fact it's basically a Huawei P9, but at a bit cheaper price, it's a really good phone. It's only available online.
I think we lost your audio. To say that again, Gary.
So,
Oh no, you've got Dalek again.
didn't they start at the same time last week?
It did exactly the same thing just as we're finishing.
Exactly
Yeah.
the same time. Yeah, it must be home automation.
it must be. How about that?
That's
Is that better?
yeah.
That's better. Yeah.
It's something to do. It is something to do with the driver on the headset. I seem to only it starts doing this after an hour of talking. So unplug it and plug it back in. It's fine.
Oh well. So you were just saying, yeah, the P9.
So the Honor 8 is basically a Huawei P9 at about 100 quid less price, almost exactly the same spec. And it's a really good bit of kit for the money. But they're doing some pretty impressive deals at the moment if you do trading. So you can trade in old devices with sort of like you get 30 or 40, 50, 60 pound bonus on top of the price of the trading device. So I was looking at it, and even sort of trading in an old 635, you were still getting 100 and something quid for it, which is almost as much as I paid for one.
Yeah, that's all right.
So,
but we'll come back. We'll press Jason next week.
Yeah.
We got another week, Jason, to surprise us all and get that Pixel ordered.
Yeah.
And if you did order a Pixel, where will we hear about it?
You'll hear about it on Twitter at Database Jace.
Yeah, and it'd be cold day in hell, I think, before that. And Gary, where can we find you?
You can find me at Gary WMA on Twitter and also Fascinating Tech. We get to get ready for the next issue, the EFA special. So some of the stuff we spoke about a couple of weeks back.
Excellent stuff. Well, thanks very much for joining us tonight. So we'll be back next week, Tuesday evening, for our usual time, 9 p.m. in the UK, for the live stream, and you can join us and Richard, who's provided some excellent comments in there tonight, and you can get us on the podcast and everywhere else. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, take care.
Cheerio. Bye bye.